Friends, Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Kaleidoscope. Yesterday, 9th of September 2021, 13th BRICS summit was held in New Delhi, which was presided over by Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India. As you may all know that BRICS, the 5-member organization consisting of Brazil, India, China, Russia, and South Africa was formed about 15 years ago, and yesterday it was its 13th summit. At the end of the summit, a long 74-paragraph New Delhi declaration was issued, and it is all-encompassing. It covers all the issues ranging from security to economic cooperation to terrorism and drug trafficking and so on and so forth. I have gone through the entire declaration word by word, and the language is mostly, routine and nothing earth-shaking. However, the language on Afghanistan is quite interesting, and I thought to share with you that language and my thoughts on that language. On Afghanistan, the summit stressed the need to contribute to fostering an inclusive intra-Afghan dialogue so as to ensure stability, peace, law and order in the country. Now, this is very interesting because most of the countries around the world, or relevant countries, major countries, have been talking or asking the Taliban to have an inclusive government. So this formulation that an inclusive intra-Afghan dialogue is very interesting. And then it does not say that this inclusive intra-Afghan dialogue should lead to formation of an inclusive government. It only says that inclusive dialogue is important in order to maintain security and law and order and peace in Afghanistan. So this language also in a way betrays that India's position, India's and Russia and China's position on Afghanistan are poles apart. Clearly, Russia and China they're cognizant of the fact that there is no other force in Afghanistan. Taliban are now in full control of the country, and they have to deal with them given their own challenges, and particularly, the Russian president was very forceful. He was the only leader who talked about Afghanistan in his opening remarks, and he very rightly impugned, without taking the name, US and all its allies, and indirectly also India. And he said that the current crisis in Afghanistan is a direct consequence of irresponsible attempts to impose alien values from the outside. The desire to build so-called democratic structures by methods of socio-political engineering without taking into account either the historical or national characteristics of other peoples, ignoring their traditions. So this is quite indicative of what Russia looks at the Taliban. And the Russian president also mentioned, and the declaration also says that they do face threats of terrorism and drug trafficking from Afghanistan. So Russians are obviously concerned about these two issues, and they would not like to get involved into artificial processes in Afghanistan, democratic processes in Afghanistan. And what democracy? We have seen that after the last presidential elections in Afghanistan, which were held in September 2019, Dr. Abdullah also claimed to be the president of Afghanistan. So at a given time, we had two presidents of Afghanistan. And India is equally responsible because India's assistance, especially to Afghanistan's intelligence agency, National Security Directorate, was primarily to create troubles in Pakistan and to undermine the progress, CPAC and BRI. And China and Russia fully understand India's strategic and regional objectives, because India is closely now aligned with the US within the framework of Quad, and India shares US's strategic objectives. So I'm glad that China and Russia, as far as Afghanistan was concerned, they prevailed and did not allow the BRICS to get carried away, and they start, to be repeating the same mantra of an inclusive government. It is now important for Pakistan as well to see that it would make no sense or purpose to keep on harping on an inclusive government, because perhaps the Taliban, because they will take time, to evolve from an ideological movement or resistance movement to become a political party. So it's not an easy or quick process. It takes time, and the Taliban may not be feeling very comfortable to include those people in the dispensation who do not agree with with the fundamentals of their ideology or their way of their way of government. So one hopes that now that China and Russia and Pakistan, we are very clear, and we would not like, these three countries at least would not like Afghanistan to descend yet again into another long interminable civil war. I think it will be important for the three countries to not defer recognition of the Taliban government. It would be better if they can coordinate among themselves and move forward immediately after the oath-taking ceremony of the new government. The more you delay, the more pressures on the Taliban, and hence more risks that the National Resistance Force or they would then regroup themselves, in the sense that then they would reach out to the international community. And I know that one can assess that the US would not be very forthcoming, and I do not see US recognizing the Taliban government in the foreseeable future, because and that is despite the fact that they signed an agreement, an accord with them on 29 February 2020, almost recognizing the Taliban as the government in waiting in Afghanistan. Now it is hypocritical, duplicitous on the part of many countries that, and as the Russian president very rightly said, how can you impose alien cultures or alien systems on other countries? And Afghanistan is one example. The last 20 years could be termed as the 2 decades of missed opportunities, and one hopes that now the agony, the quandary of the people of Afghanistan would come to an end, and they will also be able to live in peace. And frankly speaking, only the Taliban can ensure that Afghanistan remains peaceful, provided countries like China, Russia and Pakistan, they closely coordinate with each other and move forward and I'm glad that China also announced $31 million of humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan, and Pakistan has also been sending relief goods to Afghanistan. So these are all very encouraging overtures, and the people of Afghanistan should understand that these countries, especially Pakistan and China and Russia, we do want peace in Afghanistan. And then secondly, we do not want the Taliban to repeat the mistakes of the 90s. They should be more moderate in their outlook in governing Afghanistan, and that would be in the best interest, long-term interest of this landlocked country, because once this country is peaceful, you will see that many opportunities will open up for regional connectivity and regional cooperation. This is what we all want, and let's hope that, and I'm glad that the BRICS New Delhi Declaration has come up with the language which is absolutely, I would be 100% agreeing with it, that yes, we can have, and the Taliban already engaged in an inclusive intra-Afghan dialogue. They have Anas Haqqani, he already met former President Karzai and Dr. Abdullah. So they are open to this dialogue, but one should not be insisting that they should have an inclusive government, because inclusive government means unwieldy government, and that Afghanistan experienced in the 90s as well. So it is better that the Taliban are tested, they are given time, and then we see whether or not they are in a position to deliver, not only for the people of Afghanistan, but for the entire region, and if they are able to extirpate the menace of terrorism from their own country and do not allow their territory for terrorism and violence in other countries. So give them time, and perhaps 4 or 5 years down the road, we would be able to then say with clarity whether or not the Taliban have been able to abide by their the commitments which they gave to the international community. Thank you very much.